Welcome to another episode of the Working Audio Tools podcast. I am back. I had a lovely time in Costa Rica. No, I didn't. It was terrible. The weather was awful. The beaches are horrible. The drinks were horrible. And I just wanted to come home and spend 42 hours trying to get back from Costa Rica, thanks to Elon Musk blowing up a rocket over Miami and closing the airspace in Florida. That was fun. Paul and I are back with the Working Audio Tools podcast, the home of all things mixing and mastering. And this week, we want to discuss things that make the audio world so toxic. Ooh. And I can hear some butterflies flickering and
I can already hear the keyboards chattering away already.
Sweating and ooh, am I guilty of this? Are they speaking about me? Maybe we are. No. Welcome back, Ed, you absolute dickhead.
Love it.
So there's a few things. Some of them are simple, some of them are gear-related, some of them are more broad, but I think there's a few things, and I've written down some notes, but I've no doubt we will spiral into a lengthy, girthy discussion. I'll shoot off with a couple of simple ones, right? Unrealistic expectations. And the one that crops up on my channel all the time is someone diving in, completely slagging off a $100 interface, being like, this is absolute shit, and then comparing it to a £2,000 interface. No shit. Obviously, one's better than the other. It is about perspective, localized comparison, and expectations. That's one that annoys me. I feel it's unnecessarily negative content or comments. Following on from that, one that we see all the time is people slagging off gear they've never used. I understand some people have an insight into designs, circuitry designs and stuff, and preferences to what they want. And you can get an idea of where things are good or bad, give it the brand and the price point. But, you can't just say, yeah, that's shit, because you haven't tried it. I just don't think that's really a fair assessment. What were things you had in mind, Paul?
I mean, probably to elaborate on that, I would say that basically one word that probably sums all that up is dismissive. I think so many people are dismissive in the audio world, and it happens to the best of us. I think throughout all of this episode, what we have to kind of caveat about all this is that we're all human and we're not perfect humans. The reason that things get toxic is because we're fucking human beings. But I think the internet has really, really caused the audio world to be such a bad place, because when you go to LA and stuff like that and you speak to a lot of industry people, it's all about networks, it's all about connections, it's all about not burning bridges, where it seems that on the internet, nobody gives an absolute shit about burning bridges. And what I see all the time is, it's kind of confirmation bias. It kind of goes into what, Ed was talking about expectations. Many people have, say, an expectation based on their budget, and, budget will be something else that we touch upon. And I think, your expectation normally is set by how much you can afford. And what we find is that many people do either one of two things. If somebody has something that's more expensive than you, you will do whatever you can to shit on that as much as possible, to find loopholes in it, just so you feel better because you can't afford something. Then the other side of the coin is when you've spent a lot of money and, somebody can get, just as good results out of something that's maybe half the price or maybe even more. It happens quite a lot. So there's two ends of the spectrum, and it's interesting how both ends could be really toxic. But I think that, for me, where a lot of this comes from, and I spoke about it on my channel kind of in the last video, a big buzzword for me recently has been insecurity. I think the audio world is unbelievably insecure. Insecurity is part of being human, but I think that the way that YouTube and, the development of, technology and how it's made everything so accessible, which is great, I think has kind of given everybody the kind of carrot that dangles the carrot a little bit, where yes, it's accessible and you could make a career out of this, and that's fantastic. But what it does is that it kind of leads people to want to chase for the stars, and then they kind of get to a point where they sometimes feel that they might not be at that level, and then you have all these YouTubers, trying to sell you courses and telling you not to do this, to do this, and then they all contradict each other, and they've all got, again, if you think about a lot of the stuff in my studio, a lot of it is, stuff that I've been given, from videos, a lot of stuff I've invested myself, But, there's a perk.
And you deserve trolling for that, Paul.
Yeah, fuck it,
How dare you be given stuff and
Give a
create
shit.
educational content on it.
Give a shit. But yeah, I think that, there is a lot of... I think jealousy is a really, really dangerous word to use. Because if I was to say that people that troll us are like jealous, Jesus Christ, we'll just get trolled even more. But there probably is a form of jealousy. I mean, I remember like when I was, maybe 10 years ago, and I'd left audio university. You don't think I used to get jealous when I'd see other people with bigger studios with consoles and all this analog gear and big studios with like acoustically treated rooms and stuff? Of course, that's what I wanted. And I suppose some people get a little bit frustrated because they feel that many YouTubers haven't earned, the right to have that equipment. And I think there's a bit of confusion these days where many people feel that YouTubers kind of cheat their way to get certain gear. But at the end of the day, one thing I can tell you is gear's one thing, but being successful is something you can't cheat at. So it's like there's no YouTuber out there.
Great saying.
Yeah, there's no YouTuber that's ever been able to cheat their way to a successful mixing career. They might allude to the fact that they're more successful than what they are, which is what YouTube does quite a lot, but that doesn't mean that they're successful. And I think it's sometimes that there's a disparity and there's a bit of a diffusion between the audience and the reality of the YouTube world. And I think that many of people see the YouTubers, and I get it, they're like, I want that, and I want that, and I want that. And some people, ego plays into a massive part of this. A lot of psychology is involved. Me, for example, I've got a huge ego. I've got to manage my ego all the time. But I accept that I've got an ego, and I've knew from like I was a teenager that I was a little shit. And I've got this thing where I've got to constantly be right. It's a really bad trait of mine. And, everybody knows it because I'd probably say it's probably half of my audience have at least been in one big debate with me on YouTube. And I've got this thing where I need to be right. And the thing is, the internet has always got to be right. And I think that's something that I try and tell myself all the time. Paul, just because somebody's disagreeing with you doesn't mean that you're wrong, and just because that you disagree with them, it doesn't make them wrong. You know what I mean? It's like two wrongs don't make a right. You know what I mean? Two rights don't make a wrong, blah, blah, blah. I just think that we've got this thing with the internet where I always get really frustrated with the anonymity side of it. See, with my autism, I really struggle. Even when I was telling Ed, on my Discord, I said to all the guys, and it is all guys, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll all get like a female join the Discord at some point. I said to all the guys, look, can you please give me a little bit of background info about you, and for somebody who don't have names and stuff. Actually, no, there might be a female in there, but they've not said anything. But I said, look, can you please at least give me your name, your background, where you're from, what you've been doing? Because I think that's what we do, is we have this lack of personal touch on YouTube where there's no accountability. Like me and him are fully accountable. Like you could say whatever you like about certain YouTubers that, do kind of, there's an element of fake it till you make it kind of things going on. But at the end of the day, their face is out there, their name's out there, and you could Google us, you know what I mean? And we're accountable. Where I feel that a lot of the internet isn't accountable. And there's many people out there that have just fucking made up usernames, and when they've got that anonymity, they just feel like they can say anything. And I think that's probably where most of the toxicity comes from, is that anonymity online has allowed people to get comfortable with their confirmation bias, their insecurities, using the internet to make themselves feel better about their own insecurities.
That is a big one, which brings me to one of my other points that I'll come to in a moment, because I want to bring up two others first, following on from what you've just said, which is people, I think, have forgotten how to have a healthy, intelligent discussion.
Yeah, true.
People seem to get offended simply by being questioned about their beliefs. If you say, I think X, Y, and Z, and you say, well, I think ABC, but why do you think X, Y, and Z? Because ABC does this and XYZ actually does this, and it's not really what's needed. Oh, you can't think that, blah, blah, blah. But hang on, let's have a healthy discussion. And this is not just about YouTube. This is in the world in general, in my experience. Just questioning somebody seems to upset people, seems to offend them. And this is going back to the whole concept of ego. And it's so many things. I'm realizing in the last year that so much is ego-driven. Everything comes back to ego. Yep. Defense mechanisms, sense of humor, social media. It's It's very deep and complicated. I find it fascinating. And the next point I had was following on from that, which is, resorting to just childish and pathetic name calling simply because somebody disagrees with you. No, your mum, your mum, I just think the art of listening and actually taking on board what somebody is saying without needing to interject with your own experience and your own opinion, because you can, we all do it. You hear someone talking and you're just like waiting for the bit where you go, yeah, I'm going to say something witty and funny, or I'm going to put this person down, or I'm going to say something sarcastic, or I've got experience on this. I'm going to say it. Yeah, now. And everyone does it. They're not actually taking a step back just to listen. Oh, hang on. Actually, he's saying something I may have overlooked here. Because, again, ego, we just need to be, the biggest dick in the room, which brings me to my next point, which is, how can I phrase this? Posting on social media, criticizing other engineers about how they run their business. This is one I've noticed a few times on social media, and I feel like the people posting these kind of comments or statuses or whatever are doing it. It's a little bit self-righteous, and it's trying to elevate their own status by putting other people down. People do this in person, often through humor, but to do it on social media when really you could just send the person you're talking about a message. If you were someone's friend, that's what you would do. Hey, man, I don't agree with what you've just posted or what you did or what you said or how this works. Maybe consider X, Y, and Z. Cool, I am all ears for a conversation about that. And maybe you're right. Maybe I agree with you. But to post it publicly and to persistently criticize, whether it be artists, engineers, other studios, YouTubers, but doing it not from a subjective point of view, but doing it simply to make yourself look better by putting everyone else down, I find that one of the most toxic things on the internet.
No, it's true. And it's one of the hardest things for many YouTubers to deal with. There's been a lot of YouTuber spats. Like, if you look at, the whole Weaver Beats and fucking Busy Work Beats thing, like, Jesus, that got fucking out of hand where they're talking about their kids and shit. I'm like, whoa.
Not on.
Not on, out of order. And it still goes on. And, you look at the whole fucking Barry Johns and Colt Caparoon thing that happened, with the whole Atmos thing. That was, to me, that was just, like trying to dig at somebody for internet clout to kind of put you in a bit of a better position. And, it's hard for me because what I've realised that a lot of times I'll have like a preconceived idea of somebody because how I see them online. And then I meet them in person and I'm like, okay, you're nothing like that. Like, I was very shocked. I remember when I met Weaver, like, I had a certain idea of what Weaver was going to be like. And I met him and I was like, you're very different to what I thought you were going to be like. Like, Weaver was honestly really, really pleasant. He didn't like want to like kind of start any drama or anything like that. Like, he's like me.
Yeah, really friendly.
Yeah. He's like me,
guy,
but he says what he means. And again, if he's not afraid of saying something. But yeah, it wasn't any like big confrontation or that. He was actually wanting to like have really like in-depth discussions with stuff. And I quite enjoyed my time that night. But I think I've kind of had it. I remember once twice. I remember the first time I did it it's always when a big video hits. If you remember, Ed, there was a video that was called The Truth About Audio Plugins. And it was just a full video of misinformation. And I took it apart like bit by bit by bit. And I remember I got like 70,000 views on it. And that guy never recovered after that. Like, he never ever came back.
Yes.
And then there was talk about, he was like, fucking Paul Third's a bully and stuff. And I'm like, well, you shouldn't have posted it in the first place. Just make sure your information is right. And again, the only other time I've done that was AP mastering. Everybody's kind of at their wits' end with the guy now, because it is starting to get really, really boring, and everything's a scam. And, there's a lot of misinformation that he fucking peddles. Some stuff there's good information in there, but it's like, it seems to be a mixed bag of bad advice and good advice. And, I made a whole video commenting like on his video that he made about EQ. And to be fair, he took it on the chin, and he knew that certain things that he'd said, it was like, well, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right. And he argued, and but I think he took it on the chin in the end, and then it got a little bit fucking nasty at the end. But, it's kind of, again, ego. And I think ego's the hardest thing to try and manage. And there's loads of times that I've been like, fuck it, I'm way to out this guy. That's bullshit. And probably some people have maybe tried to do it with me. But what I always need to teach myself is, especially, after seeing fucking hell, like some of the shit that was said about cult is really unnecessary, man. And all over fucking Atmos. Really, like, honestly, see if I was to say right now, what is one of the biggest thing that causes toxicity in the audio community? It's fucking Atmos. Some of the most disgusting things have been said about people, all about a fucking format that uses fucking like 12 speakers in a room. Nobody's telling you to buy Atmos. Nobody's fucking like putting a gun to your head and telling you to buy Atmos. Nobody's telling you should mix Atmos. Like, Atmos is just a secondary thing. Many people look at me and go, yo, you bought Atmos. Yeah, because it's a business thing. Like, I've had loads of people come to my studio.
Did someone predict that you'd spent $100,000 on your Atmos setup?
Honestly, Jesus Christ. Yeah, the tight Scotsman, right?
I've met Paul Third. I know that's not true.
But even still, I'm like sitting there going, how much do you think that YouTubers make? I think genuinely people have this impression of YouTubers think that we are like on hundreds of thousands of pounds. I've got 3 YouTube channels now. I've still not enough to give up my full-time job. Not even fucking close.
And that brings us beautifully to our sponsors of this podcast. I'm going to take the opportunity, though, to plug Paul's new channel, which is another podcast with Emra, which is very, very good and is focusing on mixing and mastering exclusively with headphones. I'll let you say more, but already, I think, 2 videos in, and it's been some great content.
Yeah, I think 2 videos in, put it up today, second video, nearly 1,000 subscribers in under a month.
It's which is quicker than this bloody podcast.
I know, it's like unheard of it. But yeah, it's been good. And again, there'll be probably some drama on that because, again, we are trying to... It's difficult because we are kind of the authority on mixing on headphones now. And we kind of have put ourselves in that position. But I think, we have learned a lot and there's still stuff that we're learning about. But at the end of the day, Emra is like, he's like a guy with 3 billion streams to his name. The guy's mixing and mastering every day. He lives and breathes it.
Incredible. He is a very intelligent view on mixing and brutal opinions to go with it. What could go wrong on YouTube?
Totally, I know. But I think, what's important to talk about is the accountability of the YouTuber, because I have a very, very, very bad tendency to do exactly what Ed was talking about earlier, where I need to chime in and I need to say to somebody, nah, sorry, I totally disagree with that. Because sometimes I'm like, well, it's my content. And if you're disagreeing with me or you're saying that I'm saying something that's wrong, then I'm going to stand up for that point. But, Ed is correct. And, what I'm going to say now, and again, have full accountability, is that when I do kind of debate with you or I do argue with you, I know I shouldn't be doing that. I've said it many times, I should just give you the opportunity to say what you need to say. Even if it's like I'm pissed off and I'm like, you've really missed a big point there and I really disagree with you, I do need to give people their space. And it's something that in counselling I've been speaking about, me trying to manage my own ego. Of course I'm like anybody that, like, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have an ego. Of course I have a fucking ego. Every YouTuber has a fucking ego. Like, come on, you start up a YouTube channel and put your own fucking name in it. Come on. Like, Jesus Christ.
It's very hard. It's very hard because it's easy to make flippant comments, derogatory comments, sarcastic comments about people. I mean, we shouldn't make any comments. I'm reading Jay Shetty's Live Like a Monk book, and it's really a nice refresher from my own therapy trip of trying to be the energy you want to attract and really question what's unnecessary to put out there. And this book's just helping me kind of reassess that. But most people are saying those things from the safety of anonymity. And also, most people don't realise how tall you are in real life.
People do that all the time. They always look at me and go, like, I don't know why everybody thinks I'm like 5'4" or something. They're like, fucking nearly 6 foot. I'm like, yeah, like, whatever. But at the end of the day, we shouldn't even be needing to have a conversation of, I wonder what would happen if like somebody that disliked us were to like have a go at us in person. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we should never be in that
definitely
position.
Looking for the worst case scenario. DistroKid sponsor the Working Audio Tools podcast, and you can get 30% off your first year's subscription using the VIP link in the YouTube video description and podcast show notes. DistroKid makes distribution of your music easy with unlimited uploads, and you get to keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. Join over 1 million artists who rely on DistroKid to get their music into Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all other streaming platforms now and in the future. The new DistroKid app is available on iOS. Go and download it from the App Store now. From here, you can upload new releases. You can see your DistroKid earnings and withdraw these earnings. You can view and share your hyperfollow links. You can check your streaming statistics from Spotify and Apple, and even add and edit lyrics and song titles. So keep track of your releases on the move with the new DistroKid app, available on iOS. Download it from the App Store now. I think we touched on a few things that are interesting and are usually described in different scenarios, but actually I think are so more inextricably linked than people realize. And that is insecurity and ego. I think they are the antithesis of each other. The bigger the ego, the bigger the insecurity.
100%.
And I'm speaking from personal experience, learning about myself in therapy. And there's so many things that we do to compensate for insecurity. You know, things like trying to get attention. So we set up a YouTube channel, or we become professional musicians, trying to get the attention we were starved of as children. And we need this bravado to counteract how, our self-worth. And when we have a low self-worth or low self-esteem, it's very easy to be aggressive and to take that out on other people. It's very easy to, strive for the biggest and the best, most expensive studio, because that'll make other people feel inferior. And therefore, that'll make that person feel better about themselves. You see it all over the internet, every day on Instagram. It's sad, and this is something I'm really trying to focus on, is what does challenge my ego, and where does that come from an insecurity point of view? And I think we could all have a long, hard look at ourselves and challenge ourselves when you go to write that aggressive comment or that toxic comment. The irony is people who are writing toxic comments don't realize they're being toxic. So that's a pointless statement. True. But when you go for that aggressive comment, and I admit, for those who follow me on Instagram, I fucked up last week, big time. And I was drunk. I never post about these things, but I posted. I won't say what it was, because if you haven't seen it, it's now gone. Partly because I had to fly back through America to get home. But I posted something silly. It was silly. It was foolish in hindsight. I know that. But I was impassioned, and I was unnecessarily aggressive about something. And I failed. I failed big time on that. And I was anxious about that for a few days. I rectified it, but I don't know how much damage was done. I just have to live with that, and try and not do that again, and try and be better next time.
But that's called being accountable. That's called being accountable. Yeah,
being accountable, being honest with yourself, trying to be better next time.
Yeah.
And being kind to, not just being kind to other people, but be kind to yourself. But if you find yourself going for aggressive comments, just ask, what about your life are you frustrated with? Me and Paul have this, right? Let me say something quite personal. I've learned through working with Paul, we're quite similar in a lot of ways, and we're different in a lot of ways. We work really well together in a lot of ways, and we clash in some ways. And there are times when Paul will dig his heels in, and then I'll dig my heels in about something. And I've realized when I do that, it's usually because I'm frustrated about something else in my life. And it just so happens that conversation's come up, and that's an avenue for me to vent that. And I've told this to Paul, and I think most of the time, sometimes I still fail, that I'm better at identifying this. But just that level of awareness is so valuable. So I can at least stop myself, or try and stop myself, or apologize when I've been wrong, or make a valid point if I still believe in it. It's an interesting phenomena to really kind of question why you're doing things.
Right, for many people saying, right, why did you choose to talk about this? Now, the reason that we decided to talk about this is because I think it's important to talk about how do we improve and how do we get better at this. So from our point of view, I'll take it more me, Ed's a lot more reserved in comments, and he does let people have their place. And, that's something that I need to learn. Like, I'm going to say it now again, I'm a humble guy, and I don't have an issue saying sorry to people, but, if we've ever been in a position where you've put something, on one of my videos or on this podcast, and, you maybe feel that I've been maybe a little bit too harsh towards you, or I've maybe kind of went in too hard, or I've maybe not seen a certain point of view, and you kind of feel like, wow, I just wanted to put a point of view in, and you just fucking slammed me. And I mean, you're the guy that's got fucking 25, 6, whatever, 1,000 subscribers, and like you've got this following, and I'm just this one person online, blah blah blah. If I've ever made you feel shit due to a discussion that we've had, or a debate or an argument, then I am sorry. And I don't want people in the audio community to feel shit about themselves after, a discussion that I've had with you. Because if you meet me in person, what I have to tell you is I am the exact same online than I am in person. I am very opinionated. I don't have a filter, so it's a lot of times I just come out with stuff, and Ed's like, fuck's sake, it's like fucking World War III is going to come just in here. And I've got autism, you know what I mean? So I've got to constantly watch my filter, and sometimes I do struggle to think, right, how does this affect that person? And I think that's what we don't do enough, because as Ed was talking about insecurity, we never
That's
think
not just
about
an autism thing, that's an everyone thing. Everyone is so wrapped up in their own world with their own insecurities, imagining their own worst case scenarios, that we forget to think that everyone else is doing that.
Yeah, true.
And not considering other people.
And I think that, what's important is we have to think more about the person that's on the other end. So that's something that I want to make this video, because I like to have things that make you accountable. So I know if I get in a bad way again, somebody will reference this video and be like, but you said, because internet loves to fucking pull back your accountability. And I think sometimes we do make videos like that on purpose. And I want to be a little bit more open on YouTube. And I think as YouTubers, it's difficult, because I know lots of YouTubers that just don't comment. They make the video, they get like hundreds of comments, and they let the fucking comment section do its thing. And it's difficult for me, because many people have said that one of the big things that attract people to my channel is that I do get involved. And they're like, when I feel like I'm watching your video, it's like it's like a full-on experience. It's like you get into the weeds, and you actually take the time to read my comment, and we get into discussions, and there's a lot of learnings in my comment sections. Like even in here, there's a lot of learnings in our comment sections. But I do think that I have this tendency to not be able to think about the other person when I disagree with something. So I think, what's important is trying to think more about the other person, and trying to think, as what Ed said. I think Ed's always better. I waffle. Ed's great at just putting things into like short little snippets, but Ed's always on point with these things. And it's about, one, as you said, being kind to other people, but being kind to yourself. And I think that the internet is sometimes too kind to themselves and not kind enough to others. Where if we were all to be more respectful of the other person that we're dealing with. So again, if it's a YouTuber, and for example, some of the stuff that's been said about Colt is fucking horrible, man. I don't care if the guy's got fucking 100,000 subscribers and he likes Atmos, and maybe he made a fucking Atmos video and he said it was going to be the next big thing, and it turns out it wasn't. Like, there's no need to fucking like say shit about his family and like getting really, really, really fucking personal. That's not on. It's not on, because I don't do it. He doesn't do it. We didn't get personal with people. It's something I've always tried to do, is to be very factual. I always try and stay in the lane. I try and stick to the facts. And as soon as it gets personal, you're out. If we have an argument and then you start getting personal with me, you're done. You're finished. And I think that's what I've found, is that it's so quick and so easy for people, due to their insecurities and confirmation bias, to get so unbelievably defensive that, especially, that's what gear sluts is. That's why, I struggle with a very specific YouTuber that, is the embodiment of gear sluts to me. And there's been many times I'm like, I'm going to make a video, and then I have to sit back and think, Paul, you've not met this guy. You might actually meet this guy, and you're like, fuck, he's all right. It's just a YouTube thing. And I think that's what many people forget as well, is that we are not like this, right? We are who we say we are. We just do what we do, and we say what we say, and if you meet us in person, that's what we're like. But there are certain people that understand the YouTube algorithm. There are people that are doing certain things because they want to get the views, they want to get likes, they want to get the engagement. They don't give a shit who they piss off. They've got an end target, and that's what they're going to go for. And, sometimes I'm like, well, you kind of put yourself in that trap there. But at the end of the day, we should never, ever need to get personal about people. Like, honestly, there's been people that have been doxed. Like, I remember I watched someone with Weaver, and somebody doxed them, I think. or somebody doxed. He does a lot of commentary, and he was talking about like YouTubers in the music production world. Fucking hell, that shit's toxic as shit. And like people were getting doxed and stuff. I'm like, no. See when it involves your family and like people are putting your address online, like nah. Fuck off.
You're gonna have to explain what being doxed means.
Oh, you don't know that, right? So what doxed is? Doxed is basically when people share your personal information online. So it could be your home address, where you live, your phone number. Like, so what happens is, especially in the gaming world, or like the reaction world, is that what will happen is somebody will share their address online, and a lot of times what doxing is they send the police to your door. So like what they'll do is they'll get your address and they'll make up a fake call about you and say like, oh yeah, so and so's done that and that. There's been SWAT teams sent to fucking YouTubers' houses and shit.
I mean, that goes beyond the realm of toxic. That's just getting into illegal territory.
But that's what's scary, is that like we genuinely do have these. I mean, honestly, man, like some of the stuff me and you have received over the years, like sometimes it's bitchy stuff, but some of them you're like, wow, you're a toxic, evil person.
Yeah, we've both had some horrific comments. I mean, I went through a phase of...
You did, yeah.
Most of the time, like, because a lot of people ask about comments, and I just say the same thing. Like 99% of the time, I don't respond to them. They get hidden from the channel. Nobody else sees them. They forfeit the right to engage, whatever. Every now and then, something gets through, and I'm in the right mood to reply, or the wrong mood. And I've replied with some pretty cutting stuff. And there were a couple of times I'd screenshot them and post them on Instagram, which also wasn't very professional. I don't do that anymore. I now just don't reply at all unless I've had a few drinks. So I don't really drink anymore either. So, but it's hard.
Yeah,
it is hard. And some of them are I mean, no one's ever printed my address on the internet. I mean, that's a legal issue at that point.
For many of you watching this is a very niche channel. That's like the mixed phones thing. I'll get a big following, right? This is a very, very niche. And it's for people that kind of wanting to kind of do this as a full-time profession. So, but the reason why it's important to talk about this is that you need to understand, and we're understanding as well, is that see the way you act online, it can have a massive impact on your business. And if you want to make a full-time career at this and you don't want to burn bridges, then you have to watch your P's and your Q's, and you have to watch things you say about politics, and you have to watch your opinions, and you have to watch who you piss off, because you never know who you might piss off. I'm somebody that's constantly fighting with accountability, and somebody that's just opened up a whole studio. I understand that people may go on my YouTube, they may watch a video, and they may look at the comments, and if I'm getting down and dirty and fucking, like being really overly argumentative and stuff, then a lot of people might be like, I don't want to work with that person, because if I then have a disagreement with them, we're going to get into a pure big massive debate. So obviously, like with me, I'm like in counselling, speaking about, trying to manage my autism. And again, and by the way, when Ed's correct when he says a lot of times I will put things down to autism, when a lot of things it's just being a human being. But obviously with me, I've got autism, so a lot of what I do is the way my brain's wired. But I kind of do need to watch a lot about how I interact with people. Now, I'm fortunate when I get people in the studio, everybody has a great time. If you meet me in person, like I can be a hoot, right? Because I just don't really give a shit. I always like to get on with people. I've just been a thing when I was in a retail background, I was in sales, and it was all about, getting on with people. Because at the end of the day, people buy from people. So if you want to get, a good head in this industry, and you want to get artists and you want to work with people, as Joe Carroll said it, you got to be a good hang. So you've got to be, a little bit mindful of, your opinions. And sometimes you've got to be, and it's annoying because I get frustrated because there's certain people that comment on this podcast, and I've said to them, by the way, like, how do you share some of your mixes, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I can't. I like, why? It's like, because I've said some things in some comments in some videos, and if people knew that was me, then it would look good for my business. And a part of me thinks, well, why are you saying that in the fucking first place then if you know it's bad for your business? But I suppose it's the anonymity of the internet. And look, at the end of the day, I don't want us to come off that we're saying that like YouTubers shouldn't get a hard time. Look, if you need to get called out, you need to get called out. If something is misinformation, then yeah, abso-fucking-lutely, like, call that shit out. It's just that you didn't need to do it in a really toxic way that gets unbelievably personal very quickly. And if you want to get a career out of this, you need to start thinking about what we're talking about. Like, I know I'm not the best example. He's a much better example. But I can tell you, I honestly am.
Debatable.
I know. Like, you can't get... When Ed's pissed off,
you
will feel the wrath of Ed. But, it's one of these things where, like, networking's really important. If you think about when we have people on this podcast, it's like, again, we always are very, very respectful. Like, we never get into a point where we sit there on a podcast when we get a guest on and we're like, nah, I think that's bullshit what you said there. Come on now. We would never, ever, ever do that, because that's not how you maintain a relationship.
I mean, to be fair, we've never needed to.
We haven't done that. But I've always, like, in my head, I'm always like, if somebody would say something, because they're a guest on our podcast, like if somebody's in your house, I'm like, you're a guest. No, I'm not going to do that to you. And then it makes me think, well, if I wouldn't do it with a podcast guest, then why am I doing it with a random person online? Why do I feel it's okay to then argue with somebody online? What, because this person's, quite well established, that I treat them better than somebody random online? That is like, I need to get better at that. And, I really have been thinking a lot about the way that I am online, but I'm having to deal with this. Everybody loves the fact that I integrate with them, and everybody feels like, yeah, that's what Paul's one of us. You know what I mean? Paul gets down and dirty. But yeah, sometimes I get down and sometimes I get dirty. And when I get dirty, I can sometimes, get too far, because we're all stubborn. I'm incredibly stubborn. Like, I'm one of the most stubborn people you'll meet. And if you've argued with me online, you'll know that. Probably unsubscribed and then resubscribed and then unsubscribed. I had the amount of people that have said to me, honestly, Paul, you're just a polarizing character. One guy said to me, I've subscribed and unsubscribed from you 5 times. And I said, so you unsubscribed or subscribed? He went, subscribed. For now. I was like, okay. So fair enough. But yeah, I just think that I'm seeing a lot more toxicity in the YouTube world. I'm seeing it in comments. Gear sluts has been gear sluts. So I call it gear space, whatever. The attitudes are still the same. Facebook forums are still as toxic as ever. And even on my Discord, I tell all the guys in my Discord, this is not gear sluts. You get personal, you'll get one warning. And if you do it again, you're out. That's it. I'll cancel your Patreon subscription. You're out.
Commendable.
We need to treat people the way that we would want treated. As Ed said, you know what I mean? Like, that's what they say. It's like, my dad always told me, treat people the way that you want to be treated. Sometimes it's hard to forget that, as Ed says. There's a lot of people that, I think in terms of the budget thing, that is one of the biggest things. I've got guys in the Discord that say to me all the time, it's really frustrating for me because I see what you and Emra have got, with the organics and the HE1000 SEs and the toppings and stuff, and I'm like, I really want that. I just can't afford that. And I get that frustration because I've been there. I've been that person that, for like a year and a half or 2 years, like, people, the thing that people would do to me would just say, Paul third, Paul home hobbyist third. That was like the tagline for me. And that really fucked me off for years. And as my wife said to me, is that the reason why we spent so much money on building this thing? Because the internet told you were a home hobbyist, and because you had an audio degree, it fucked you off. And I was like, no, okay, maybe it is a part of it, because I do feel really good when I get people in the studio and I feel good about myself. There's the ego thing again. But, I think that one of the reasons me and Emra decided to make mix phones is because we want to talk about mixing on headphones for any budget. Yeah, we'll talk about, higher end stuff, because there is higher quality, and higher budgets and stuff. Not all the time. But, we want to get people to be in a way where mixing isn't gatekept. And this is something that me and Ed have tried to do as well on this channel. It's the reason why we share and we're accountable. And, we share all our flaws and we share all the things that we're doing in our mixes. Like, even on my Patreon and my Discord, I share screenshots of all the sessions that I do for this podcast and stuff. And, I just think that it's difficult for people because they want a career, because they love music, and then they can't afford it. And then I think that frustration, I don't think it's ego at that point. I think it's frustration.
DistroKid hosts a range of visually engaging social media promotion tools to help your release stand out from the crowd. Creative and colorful social media cards incorporate your artwork to help your release stand out. These are free to download and can be highly effective promoting your release. DistroKid also offer mini videos, which are free, short, customizable videos incorporating your artwork and a short clip of your track. And if this wasn't enough, DistroKid also have a tool to create a Spotify canvas generator, which is the video that plays in the background when you're playing a song on Spotify. Simply choose a theme and choose from dozens of different creative artwork concepts. These are free to use and great for engaging your audience, available on DistroKid. For an additional subscription of $8.25 a month, you can get your music videos distributed to Apple Music, Vivo, and Tidal, and you'll keep 100% of your royalties. With DistroVid from DistroKid. I wonder if the increase in toxicity you've noticed is just indicative of the general state of the world and just people generally been suffering from austerity, everything getting more difficult, and people generally struggling a bit more and needing to vent that. But what we're not taught as children is how to vent, how to deal with these feelings, these frustrations, these insecurities, these threats, whether it be another person's success or something we don't understand. We perceive these things as threats, and we're not taught in school how to deal with any of this shit. So everyone's bubbling over, and every now and then have comments jumping out of the pot and might not mean much to someone who's letting these little bits fly off. But when you're in our position, which you've not used the word yet, I don't like the word myself, but we have to admit, in positions of influence, so we are influencers.
Yeah, 100%.
We are then targeted by some of those little bits that bubble over and leak out of the pot, and it's just, the odd person gets stung once. It's just, we often get stung more than the average person, which is kind of difficult to deal with. So and what you've done, knowing this, because you've known this for a while, that you get in the weeds with comments, you thought, I know what, right. So if I'm really engaged in YouTube, what can I do? I'll set up a Discord so I can personally relate, personally chat to these people. And then what I'll do is I'll set up another channel and open the doors to even more toxicity. You, sir, are a genius.
I know, I'm a fucking lunatic. That's what I am. I'm an audio lunatic.
And how you have the time for it all, I have no idea.
Honestly, I'm so scared that I said this to Ed today. I don't know if this will burn me out. I don't know, because this week, so let me think, last week was difficult. So he was on holiday. I had to do the whole podcast by myself, the whole editing as well, of audio and video. Then I had the first video with Emra. I had to do all the editing for that as well, all the thumbnails, think about all the titles, new descriptions, set up a new channel. And then I had mix recalls for an album that I'd done for a client. So I was I wasn't expecting it, and it came through, and I was like, oh. So I did that, had an afternoon, and I did that, and I got that out. And then on Saturday, I had a drummer in, and we spent the whole day in the studio just experimenting with drum stuff. So we tried little different mics, different techniques, and kind of
saying that as if it was a bad way to end your week.
Oh God, he would have loved it. Jesus, no, it was good, and I did enjoy it because again, my drum setup's pure setup, and I felt better because it was something that I'd not done in ages, and it was good to kind of dust off the cobwebs and stuff. And the drums came out sounding really good and stuff. And he was over the moon, and he brought his partner with him, and we had a really good discussion. And they got into the Atmos room, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is how music should be experienced," and there was tears and everything.
Was he over the Keith moon?
Oh, for fuck's sake. Right, okay. Well, let's end it there. Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Let's just end it. Fucking hell. I'm glad you're back, eh? Fucking everybody's glad Ed's back, eh? Jesus Christ.
Well, not very big shoes to fill, apparently, eh?
Yeah.
I did listen to the whole episode. It was a very good episode.
It was, wasn't it? It's done well. It's done well. Even there's a little bit of controversy on that as well. Fucking hell.
I read some of that, and yeah, I stayed out of it.
I know. Me, obviously, I should have kept out of it. I couldn't help myself. And by the way, to the two guys that I did get in a bit of a debate with, I shouldn't have fucking got into it. I should have just left it alone. Right? So to you two, okay, I should have left it alone. But yeah,
well, as we know, there's healthy debate. There's no need to take offence if somebody is merely questioning your perspective or offering up a different perspective or a better way of doing things. But this is one of the most important things, I think, in life. How you react is a choice.
Correct. Yeah, you've said this many times.
You can choose to be offended, or you can choose to take the lesson that's in front of you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bombshell I will end it on. It's been emotional. It really has.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Bye bye.
Keith Moon.
Fucking copy.